U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. He's also an MSNBC and NBC News international affairs analyst. Ambassador, good to see you, sir.
Great to be here.
I know you yourself have been in the news over this whole fallout of this, but I want to start with the news of today with Putin's invite.
Yeah.
There's part of me that thinks he's trolling America. Literally days after the White House has to pull the invite before Pompeo goes, before
kicks, right?
You know, then suddenly Putin isn't offended, if and nothing. No, he says, no, come to Moscow then.
Right.
What's that about?
It's very strange. You know, in one way, they can control the summit over there a lot better than we can here.
Yeah, I bet.
For one thing, I couldn't go to Moscow to be part of the color commentary. So, and he can control the press better. They can control those movements.
Right.
But I do think it was just a bit of trolling. You know, as a way to signal, as he did, and I think sincerely, that he thinks President Trump is good for Russia and good for Russian interests. He wants to keep the lines of communication open. And if it's too hard to have the summit here, move to Moscow where he can control it better.
The fact that they've been so eager to set up a second meeting, right, within months, you know.
Makes no sense.
What does that tell you about the first meeting, that it went? I'm trying to figure out, you have to hurry up and have a second meeting because what? Things went great, or things were such a disaster? How would you characterize it?
Well, for me, of course, it was a complete disaster.
No. But I'm talking in their minds. Yes, that's where I'm trying to get.
Well, for Putin, it was a fantastic success. Why wouldn't you want another one of those meetings? I mean, he got everything he wanted. None of the hard things were brought up. Yeah. Beyond his wildest dreams, our president stood there and said, "I believe you because you were strong today." And my intelligence community, I'm not so sure about. And then when he rolled out this cockamamie crazy scheme of interrogating alleged American criminals, of which I later became known that I was on that list, the president said it was a great idea. So if you're Putin, it's obvious why you want it. Why President Trump wants it, I don't understand.
Well, one explanation would be he may want to do over. Does he realize now that how disastrous it was? Do you think maybe even seeing Mike Pompeo get battered? Yeah. By not just Democrats, Bob Corker and other Republicans, too.
Maybe so. I mean, what was striking to me about that press conference, Chuck, was something you and I have talked about for many, many times. Yeah. There's a policy by the Trump administration towards Russia. And I think it's pretty good. I actually agree with most of it. In some ways, I think
you have said they have done things you wish the Obama administration had done.
You know, lethal assistance to Ukraine. I applaud them for that. But when it comes to the president, he doesn't agree with the policy. And you saw that yesterday when he kept saying, well, our policy on Crimea is this, our policy on this, our policy on protecting people like me is this. The president doesn't seem to agree with the policy.
You're here in Washington. It's hard not to assume it doesn't have to do with this issue that you're personally dealing with. You have a Washington Post op-ed this morning talking about this, because what apparently Putin wants is, like, in exchange for the indicted intelligence folks who committed the crime here in the United States, that he would let Mueller interrogate them if they get to interrogate you, Bill Browder, the Magnitsky Act, and this is where a lot of people go, Magnitsky Act, all this, and, you know, they start... Putin's anger at you and this Bill Browder character, explain it.
Well, they're different angers, and I'd want to make that clear. Bill Browder was a successful investor in Russia in the 90s, later lost some property, was stolen from him. He hired a lawyer, Sergei Magnitsky, to protect him, and under false charges, he was arrested and then died in pretrial detention. And to right that wrong, Bill Browder has pushed, first in our country, something called the Magnitsky Act to sanction human rights violators. President Obama signed that into law in 2012, and now he's going around the world trying to get other countries to adopt that. So, really striking.
Putin is going after that guy.
Putin is going after that guy.
That's the motivation. This.
Yes.
What's his? Why are you on this list and the other folks on this list?
It's a strange list. Some are related to Magnitsky. Some are related to other things. I seem like I was just kind of thrown in because I know Putin doesn't like me. I wrote a whole book about it to try to describe and explain to people their nasty ways at disinformation and harassment. And by the way, Chuck, I thought when I left Russia, they then put me on the sanctions list. That was 4 years ago that I was done. And here they came back at me. But I want to be clear about it.
Is the American government going to protect you?
Well, it's great what they said and now have said and finally got right about not allowing us to be interrogated. That is not going to happen. What the next step is, however, is scary. They could put an indictment on me, a warrant for
They
my
meaning
arrest,
the Russians.
Russian government, and then go through Interpol and request my arrest. And so when I show up in a third country, I could be detained. And that part needs to be pushed back onto. I think.
Do you feel comfortable leaving the country right now?
Well, some countries yes, other countries no.
Meaning if it were Canada, UK, one of our closest sort of the ones that would basically worry about America before Interpol?
So I'm not going to tell you my travel schedule.
Fair enough. No, I would
people are watching, but I'll tell you one thing. I was invited and was planning to go to Belarus in October.
Yep.
I'm not going. And that's a country that I just don't feel comfortable with. Now, as I said in my piece today, I think it's a really low probability event that I could be arrested, given who I am.
You're high profile, you're on television.
And
probably the best thing for your safety is to be on TV, I think.
And I did nothing wrong. I want to be clear about that. Even what they said I did was what I did working at the White House. I was a U.S. government official. But it's not a zero probability event, and I want to make it a zero probability event. And that's where I need the help of the Trump administration. And it makes them look weak, too, in the eyes of Putin. Just so I don't quite think they understand Putin yet. By not pushing back, they look weak. I personally think that Putin thought that the president was going to push back on that idea. I honestly do. He threw it out there.
Just to see what happened.
He was trying to create equivalence between those that are indicted and we Americans. He expected him to push back, and he didn't.
Have you been surprised at how little public support you've gotten from this administration?
Well, public support has been outrageously. I got a 98-0 vote in the U.S. Senate. There was a hashtag Protect McFaul.
Congress has been good to you.
And on the streets here, Chuck, I got people coming up on me, shaking my hand, former veterans, people everywhere saying, we have your back. And I am glad, I'm delighted that I met with the White House, the State Department.
All that happened today and yesterday?
In the last couple of days. And, you know, this is not just about me. The United States government needs to stand up and to protect all Americans.
You get the sense they are going to do this, or that they paid you lip service?
You need to go ask them that question.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.